Good day, friends. This is Casey with Aligned Astrology. Happy to have you back. Today we're talking about the full moon in the sign of Sagittarius. This one is going to be interesting. Usually, when we talk about full moons in Sagittarius, we think about truth. We think about growth and wisdom, things along those lines, as full moons are culmination points and times for letting things go in order to receive something new. But today we're going to continue along with the fixed stars because through a little bit of research, I've come to find that this full moon in Sagittarius is closely conjoining the fixed star Antares. I think I'm saying that right. And being that it is one of the royal stars, the four royal Persian stars, it is in opposition with the royal star Aldebaran as well. So we'll talk about both of these fixed stars today. Remember, friends, if you like this kind of content, please like this video and subscribe so that way somebody like you can have an opportunity to receive the algorithm and hear this for themselves. Now, when we talk about Sagittarius and the full moon in Sagittarius, the sun shines its light into the full moon for us all to see. And we can understand that the centaur shoots its arrows, right? And I think about Sagittarius as a Sagittarius sun who does many different things, like a jack of all trades. But in this case, we want to focus in on what the fixed star Antares means when conjoining this full moon in Sagittarius. This fixed star Antares has a Martian Jupiterian like energy, so it can be sort of aggressive and interested in its own ideology, the things that it's received as truth for itself. So, as full moons are times of endings or culmination points, so we must be very aware, watchful, and vigilant of what's going on. We have to make sure that we're not in the midst of harming somebody for what we think is right. Because Sagittarius, as the truth seeker, may just say something that's not so nice. Even if it's the truth, remember, friends, the truth hurts from time to time. So, when we begin to contemplate and become mindful of this fixed star Antares, we have to understand that zealotry could be afoot. We could become overzealous about our values or the things that we believe as truth and want to express them strongly. And let's continue to look at these lunation cycles as cycles, right? It's not something that is one pointed. These things lead to the next thing. So, as you may know, we have Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, where it's been for almost a year now, friends. And this Jupiter is preparing to ingress into the sign of Leo within the next coming weeks, actually. It's going to be near the end of June, moving into July. We get to experience Jupiter moving into the sign of Leo. But Jupiter, currently in the sign of Cancer, is in its place of exaltation. And we're talking about Jupiter right now because it is the ruler of this full moon. And Jupiter, as a ruler of this full moon in his exaltation place, can speak to where this may be showing up in our lives or what kind of flavor this full moon is going to have when we start to talk about the different ingredients involved. Since we have that spice of the fixed star Antares in here, we need to also talk about Jupiter in Cancer. Now, as you maybe have been mindful of over the past year, the possible benefits of Jupiter in Cancer, but it is also important for us to notice trials may have been afoot. It's just because a planet's exalted doesn't mean it's not here to teach us lessons through trial. Jupiter in the sign of Cancer is correlated with our home, our family foundation. It can be the nurturing energy, but it's correlated with growth and abundance, expansion, opulence. It's important for us to be mindful of the seemingly hidden challenge of Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. And since we have the moon in the sign of Sagittarius for our full moon, these two planets together are in a mutual reception, meaning they complement one another. They are in connection. It's like me being at your house and you being at my house and you giving me a call. I think I used that analogy in a past video, but we're looking for something in one another's homes, and we obviously know where the things are in our own homes. So we work together to find these different things, right? But Jupiter is receiving high praise in the sign of Cancer, and the moon is in the sign of Sagittarius, offering that support over to Jupiter. So of course, it can seem very, very positive for us. But when we receive such positive experience, we see it as the truth, nothing but the truth, only the truth, right? We may have had different experiences in our relationships, in our families, and we see these connections as something that have been very beneficial for us. And it's important to understand that sometimes these connections may be a hindrance to our own growth, maybe like a coddling or an overbearance. Because when we think about the nature of Cancer, as the mother wants to defend and protect and love, nourish, and care. But Jupiter wants to grow, wants to seek the truth, wants to be free and travel, right? And experience life. So although it is best here, right? So we say, right, with exaltation, it is one of the best places or the best place that Jupiter can be in the sign of Cancer. But soon it's going to move into the sign of Leo, friends, where it can be seen on the stage, right? And it's going to open the door for us to be received by the world, by our peers, by those around us in a different way. It's our time to shine in that part of our life, friends. So we need to see while Jupiter and Cancer is here, if there's been any downsides in our life, if we need to make some changes while it's here for our benefit. And with this full moon here, maybe there's something that we can look at and see these things for ourselves. But we must be mindful of the things that we may say, the communication that we may have with other people. And soon we're going to pull up the astrology chart so we can take a look at these transits that are showing themselves. But before we do, I want to speak about the other fixed star being activated in conjunction with the sun in Gemini, which is Aldebaran. And Aldebaran also carries that Martian Jupiterian like energy, but it is it's not so zealous. It is more correlated with our morality and our honor, our standpoint of truth, wanting to do things the right way or the way that we remain pure. So we can look at the opposite ends of the coin, you know, and we can see from the standpoint of Aldebaran versus from the standpoint of Antares. Aldebaran wants to do it, we can say do it by the book or do it the right way, do it the moral way. But Antares is the one who just has to get it off of his chest. I can't wait to say these things. As soon as I do, I'm going to be right. And you know, it's not necessarily about being right or wrong, but it's this inherent truth that we may feel we have right now, or we may feel justified or righteous, because we must remember that Jupiter is also one of order. It is one of justice as well. So we need to remember that maybe we're not right, before we begin to so quickly share our thoughts with the people we're connected to. So let's go ahead and pull up a chart, friends, so we can look together and see what's going on. And we have those royal fixed stars on the zodiacal wheel for us to see. Here in close conjunction to our full moon in Sagittarius, we have the fixed star Antares, and we can see how close it is because this full moon culminates at 9 degrees and about 55 minutes. So it's very close. So how could we not talk about it today, friends? It's giving a flavor to this full moon. Like we talked about, that Jupiter in the sign of Cancer is in a mutual reception to the moon in Sagittarius, so they're in great communication. And of course, Jupiter is in a phenomenal place for itself. But we want to also speak about Aldebaran, which is in close proximity to the sun here. So we can talk about it from the standpoint of sun and moon. Our sun is our guiding light in this life. It can be seen as the things that light us up, whereas the moon is our emotions, our internal world is our expression. So we must be mindful of the path that we are walking on right now. And as Sagittarius, from the standpoint of Sagittarius, we can see as an archer, where are we aiming our arrow? How can we make sure we hit our mark, right? So we can think about shooting for the moon, shooting for that height of our experience, whatever it is that we want to achieve right now. So that way, even if we happen to not hit our moon, we at least land on the stars, right? We're shooting high for our goals. And Jupiter here in a very supportive place is going to help us. And it's important to talk about a few days after this full moon in Sagittarius, we have Mercury moving into the sign of Cancer. And soon after that, right now we're looking at June 2nd, but on June 9th, we're going to see that we have a conjunction between Venus and Jupiter in that sign of Cancer. And when these two planets come together, these two benefic planets in our zodiacal wheel, there's a great opportunity for beautiful things to occur. Of course, Venus is our beauty and our harmony. Jupiter is growth and expansion. It is our truth. It is the things that we seek. Venus is our values. So when they two come together, especially with Mercury in this sign, it can be a beautiful idea that comes in, a relationship that comes in, a conversation, a connection that opens the door for us to do something great, to move towards our goals that we wish to achieve. And we must notice that right before Jupiter moves into Leo, it experiences this conjunction, friends. So all these things are connected. So be mindful of these things as they unfold in our lives. What's going to come up for us? What relationship connections are we experiencing? And how are they going to play a part in what comes next in our lives? But remember, friends, as this full moon unfolds for us and these fixed stars play their hand in our experience, we must be mindful. Where do we lie morally with ourselves? How can we do it by the book or as pure as can be without dying for our own ideology or standing on the necks of those around us who just don't see things the way that we do? Let's take a little bit to go over the rising signs. Friends, we'll do some horoscopes. Let's do horoscopes for all 12 signs. And we'll begin with Aries. Aries will experience this full moon in the sign of Sagittarius, and it's going to be in the ninth house. Being that Jupiter is the ruler in the fourth house of home, family, and foundation, this can be an opportunity for us to do some traveling, an opportunity for us to leave the nest. When we think about Jupiter in the fourth house in the sign of Cancer, it can be closely correlated with mother. Usually when we think about Jupiter, it gives us all the things that we need. But when we have a full moon in Sagittarius, a time of endings or completion, maybe it's time to leave where we are, where we've been planted, to uproot ourselves and travel to somewhere new, to learn a new ideology or belief, to apply our teachings or the things that we've been learning for our lives, to see things differently, to approach life in a different way, in a way that's going to be more beneficial for our growth. Because Jupiter, the one who seeks the truth, wants to grow, wants to be free, wants to travel. So notice how that's going to show up in our experience, friends. Remember, we don't want to burn the bridges. We want to keep them intact. Remember, this fixed star, Antares, can be very overzealous. It can be filled with the fuel to follow its passions and do whatever it takes. So remember to take it easy. Taurus Rising, you have the Sagittarius full moon in the 8th house of the place of karma or the esteem of others, how our partner may see us, our debts. Everybody, or let's not say everybody, but modern astrologers usually correlate this house with death and rebirth, the process of rejuvenation, being born again. And being that it's a full moon, it's a time of letting something go. Since we have Jupiter in our 3rd house of our day-to-day experiences, our connection with siblings or neighbors, it can show us that maybe it's time to be free from some of these things, to be free from old connections, or even how we show up in these connections, because the 8th house is how they see us, right? So maybe we've found a new way of being. Maybe we've come into a new spiritual form, a new ideology, a new belief system. And now we are being seen in a different way. We're showing up in a way that's not normal for the people around us, but these things are beneficial for us. It's a mutual reception, so we can be easily understood. So we can do it in a way that is palatable. We can share ourselves in a way that is received by the people around us. Taurus Risings. Gemini Rising friends, you have the full moon in Sag in your 7th house of one-on-one relationships. Usually when we speak about full moons in the 7th house as culmination points, we think about the 7th house according to traditional astrology as the place of endings, right? And being that this is the relationship house, a lot of people may automatically jump to a conclusion and say, what's going on in my relationship? But friends, it does not mean a relationship is coming to an end, especially if your relationship is great right now. It can help you to understand that we may begin showing up in a new way in our relationship, or our partner may be changing their ways in relationship that may be more beneficial for us, because we need to consider Jupiter in the sign of Cancer in its place of exaltation, in our 2nd house of finance, our 2nd house of values, right? It's not necessarily always our money, but it's the things that we hold dearly, the things that we can believe in, the things that we can find security in. And seeing that it is our 2nd house where Cancer abides, it is correlated to our emotional well-being. So we must be mindful that maybe our partner is really beginning to learn us deeply and being able to support our needs, our own well-being. But we must be mindful of these fixed stars here. And since we are changing too as a Gemini rising with Uranus in the first house, all things are on the table, or we can even say off the table. I like to say Uranus flips the whole table over, right? Makes us take a 180-degree turn and go in a different direction, especially in the first house. It's with ourself. It's with our own ideals of self. It's how we show up and who we believe that we are for ourselves. And since Aldebaran is here in conjunction with the sun in your first house, Gemini, we need to remember that we need to lead from a moral standpoint. We need to honor our own selves and whatever is taking place. And we must be mindful of our own partner, because when we change, we may share things about ourselves that may not be so palatable at first. So we must honor those people around us, our one-on-one relationships, and share ourselves in a way that can be received. Because remember, we're new to this, Gemini rising with Uranus in the first house. We're new to these changes coming into our life. So we need to let everybody else know in a way that they can receive it. Cancer risings, you get this this full moon in Sagittarius in sixth house. Sixth house is our day-to-day work, our health, our service to others. And since we have Jupiter in the first house, it can be closely correlated to our health. Maybe there's something that we've learned about our own health and well-being that is changing, that we need to let go of for the embetterment of our own experience. Since we have Aldebaran, we have Uranus in the 12th house, there's many different things beneath the surface that are changing, that may be altering our own health and our perspective of our health. So we need to be very mindful as these things unfold, because we may not necessarily be too aware of what's going on right now. But when the sun shines this light onto the moon, it can give us a little bit of clarity, especially when we talk about our health, because the body keeps a score. When we learn about our physical body, our mental acuity, our awareness of the self that we embody in this lifetime, we need to understand that we need to know ourselves. And by being mindful of the experience of life, being mindful of the health that we have, even the challenges that arise, we can learn something. We can uncover the things that are hidden. And since Antares is here in conjunction with this full moon in the sixth house, we must take it easy. We must not become a fanatic of these things. We must learn what it means to take it step by step. Like this sixth house is our daily efforts towards a goal. So it's like my teacher Adam, he says, we chop wood and we carry water in this house. So take it easy, take it step by step to see what we can learn, Cancer rising. Leo risings, you get this full moon in Sagittarius in the fifth house of creativity. Creativity, romance, it can be children, but here it's a time of letting go, right? But we have Jupiter in the 12th house in Cancer, things that we don't see about ourselves, right? So there's something that can be very beneficial hiding beneath the surface that just may not be prevalent to us yet. And remember, on June 9th, like we spoke about, friends, Venus is coming into a conjunction with that Jupiter in our 12th house, and Mercury will have moved into Cancer as well. Mercury is moving into Cancer 2 days from May 31st on June 2nd, friends. So we need to be mindful of our dreams and things that are coming to surface that may be of support to our creative endeavors, may be of support to the businesses that we may want to develop and share with the people around us. With that moon in the fifth house and a close conjunction with the fixed star Antares. We need to be mindful of our creative endeavors and make sure that they are things that are going to be beneficial to share, because a lot of the times when we are sharing something, it is supposed to be of benefit to other people. Of course, we have our own passion projects and things like that that are good for us, but with this fixed star here that can call for harsh action or overstatement, overexertion, ideological value over the beliefs of others. We need to be mindful of what can be born from these different things. Maybe it's something very positive, or maybe it's something that can be harmful to others. So it's just something that we can take into consideration, Leo risings. We need to do it by the book. Aldebaran in the 11th house shows like more morality is beneficial. Honor to ourselves and to our community is beneficial. Remember these things, friends, as this full moon unfolds, Leo rising. Virgo rising, friends, you have this full moon in the fourth house of our foundation, our roots, our upbringing. In traditional astrology is correlated with our father or the nurturing parent too. When we look at the fourth house full moon, we begin to think about our families. It can be our family we have now if we're an adult, our own children, wife or husband or whatever the dynamic is, or we can look back at our own childhood upbringing. When we think about Jupiter in the 11th house, we have the community that we can take into consideration, our acquaintances, and the support systems that we have that are a support to our home life, the place where we go to be free from the public. These two things are beneficial to us right now, but we have Antares here in the fourth house, which can show that we may be not considering the people in our home. We may be over exerting ourselves in different places in our experience and not considering these people. We have to understand that what we do at home affects how we are in the world. And right now, with Aldebaran in the 10th house in close proximity to the sun, it's important for us to be mindful that we need to be of moral value. We need to be of honor for ourselves and how we communicate and how we express ourselves. So this all starts at home, friends. Be mindful of these things. Virgo rising. Libra rising, friends. We have the full moon in the third house in Sagittarius here. And having the full moon in the third house, well, having the moon in the third house in general is very positive because it's in its planetary joy. The moon moves fast. It's the fastest of our planets that we have available to us in this solar system. And the third house is correlated with our day-to-day movements, our siblings, our close friends that we see on a daily basis. It's also correlated with our communication. So here with the full moon at this culmination point, maybe our day-to-day experience is beginning to change, or maybe once again, when we think about Sagittarius, we can think about truth, we can think about belief, we think about judgment from time to time, or order. Maybe these things are changing and we're beginning to express ourselves in a way that can alter how we are seen. With Aldebaran in the ninth house of our higher values, it can show a great morality is important for us to embody, because Mercury is also here in the ninth house, preparing to move into the 10th house of career and public role, meaning that the things that we say are going to be received by the world, friends. And of course, Venus is coming into conjunction with Jupiter pretty soon, along with that Mercury in the 10th house. So maybe there's very beneficial things to come. And we need to be mindful of how we're operating right now. We don't want to cause any harm to the greatness or the positive things that are coming into our life right now. We have to remember wherever we're aiming our arrow, we have to make sure that it hits the mark that we want, the goals that we want to achieve, while honoring the people around us, remembering those day-to-day experiences we've had, the people that we've been connected with, and even if it's time to change and move on from these relationships and experiences, we don't take them for granted. For Libra risings, now we have Scorpio. Scorpio risings, you experience this full moon in the second house. Second house is our values, the things that are connected to us but are not necessarily ourselves. It's the things that provide us with security in this life. It can be food, it can be money, it can be our material assets. But we must understand when we have Antares here, we can feel a sort of self-righteousness, a sort of even greed, right, or justification towards the things that we need for ourselves, right, and forget about what we do for other people or how those people around us support us. And there's always something beneficial that we can do for our honor, for our morality, because Aldebaran is in the 8th house right now. It's the esteem of others, it's how people see us. But when we become overzealous for the things that we want in our life, for the way we see things and the way we think things are supposed to be, we can forget about the feelings of other people and take action or communicate in a way that may not be so kind, in order to make sure we get what we need. So it's just an opportunity, friends, for us to be mindful of how we are expressing ourselves to get to the things that we need, especially as a Scorpio rising, regardless of where Mercury may be in your own astrology. In my case, Mercury is in my first house in the sign of Scorpio. So sometimes when we speak, if there is anger involved or something like that, it can be very, very harsh. So be mindful of the communication you have with other people right now, especially since Mercury is moving into Cancer. And although we have the benefic planets here, Venus and Jupiter, that doesn't mean we cannot have emotional outbursts, friends, if we're not aware. If we get caught up in the planetary sauce, things can tend to go in a way that we don't want them to. So let's just keep these things in consideration about our values, right? The things that are connected to us are not as important as how we can be beneficial with the things that are connected to us. Sagittarius, you have the full moon in the first house. Full moons in the first house is an opportunity for us to let go of the way we see ourselves, right? And since we have Antares here in conjunction with the full moon, it can give us an opportunity to even become a fanatic with ourselves. We don't like what's been going on, or it's opportunity for us to change. Maybe we've received a new outlook on life. Maybe we've learned something new that's given us an opportunity to change our way of being. Maybe we've got a new set of values or morals that have been given to us from a relationship standpoint, and now we want to change totally. We want to make a complete shift in our experience, and we're just ready to let everything go that we've recently thought about ourselves. But we need to take it slow, friends. We need to go step by step and notice what comes up, because sometimes, especially with Antares here, we can make quick and sudden movements. We can do things too fast, and when we do things too fast, if there is not time, if we haven't taken our time to see what an outcome may be, we may end up somewhere where we don't want to be. But Aldebaran in the 7th house is helping us to remember our honor. You know, this is the seventh house, right? One-on-one relationships. So look at our mirrors, friends. See what people around us are doing, or the close connections to us. What are these people saying? Your seventh house is Gemini. So it's important to notice what connections you have in the realm of communication that are showing themselves. Sagittarius rising. Notice what this change looks like in your life. Now, Capricorn rising, you have the full moon in the 12th house. 12th house is in our hidden world, our subconscious mind, the things that we don't see about ourselves. It can be seen as hidden enemies as well. And since Antares is here, it can be us as our own hidden enemy, right? Because we can be taking into consideration the needs of others way too much, to where we sacrifice ourselves in order to achieve an outcome. Because when we think about Capricorn as the goal, right? Capricorn is the one who wants to achieve the goal, wants to maintain the security, and will do whatever it takes, even sacrifice oneself to achieve such things. But we have Jupiter here in the seventh house of one-on-one relationships, a very beneficial place. So we have to look at those one-on-one relationships. Maybe these people in our life have been a great support, a great nourishing system for us, and we see it as an opportunity to repay them. But with this Aldebaran in the sixth house of work, health, and service, it can show us that there is an opportunity for us to work hard, but we also must consider ourselves first, friends. It's important for us to have the values of ourselves, our own morality, our own honor for ourselves, so that we don't burn ourselves out. We don't do too much in order to support those people around us. Because if we empty our cup completely, there's no more giving that we can do. So we can take it from this standpoint of supporting ourselves, so we can really support those people we are connected to. Capricorn risings. Aquarius rising, friends. We have the full moon in the 11th house. The full moon in the 11th house is community, acquaintances. It is our good fortune here. And when we have a full moon in the 11th house, it's an opportunity for us to be free of old connections, or even the way we've operated in these connections. Doesn't necessarily mean we're losing our friends or that group that we've been a part of, but it can be a new way of being seen in that group, or taking on a new ideological value or belief system to share with a group. But we don't want to, I keep using this word, we don't want to be a fanatic. We don't want to think that our way is just the truth almighty. We've just received it, friends. Whatever's coming up, we've just received it. But since Antares is here, it's giving us that feeling that this is the one. This is the one, guys. Nobody's going to turn me from this. Fifth house is where Aldebaran is. It's in our fifth house of creativity, our fifth house of romance, our children. Here in this place is where our morals, is where our values, is where honor lives, right? And since it's in opposition with this place, we must take these things into consideration. We must fall back on these things before we are so quick to make that change in our experience. Aquarius risings. Jupiter is in your sixth house of work, health, and service. So how are we being of service with the things that we create right now? How are we able to share them to our communities, our friends, our acquaintances, in a beneficial way to which they can receive the things that we are sharing, as opposed to us shoving them down their throats? And maybe that doesn't look like that in your life, but with Antares here in the 11th house, there's a possibility of these things where we can overexert ourselves or do too much. So just be mindful of how we're expressing ourselves, Aquarius risings. Pisces risings, we get this full moon in the 10th house. 10th house, career, public role, what the world sees us for sharing. Antares in conjunction with the moon in the 10th house can show that we can be getting up on that soapbox, friends, and sharing from the heart, sharing these things that we believe as truth now. And this Jupiter, the ruler of this full moon, is in the 5th house of creativity. So where have we been guided emotionally up to this point? What is our passion project? What is the thing that we've been working on that we've been waiting to share? And we must also take a moment to look at ourselves deeply, our roots, our home, the place where we go where no one's watching. What have we been working on? Where do our values, our morals stem from that we need to come back to before we begin to share publicly the things that we've been developing, so that way we can keep our authenticity in our creativity? Mercury in the 4th house, right before it's leaving to go into the 5th house of creativity to probably gain that idea to add to that creative aspiration that we're sharing. What's going on right now in the 4th house? We have Uranus here. So many different changes are prevalent right now. So Pisces rising, we need to remember before we share publicly what's going on at home. This concludes our horoscopes, friends. Just a few final thoughts regarding this full moon in the sign of Sagittarius. Remember, as that centaur aiming its bow and arrow and shooting for the moon, we hopefully land on some stars, friends. Remember, this time of culmination is an opportunity for us to see clearly the different things that have been going on in this part of our life, and carefully offer ourselves or share ourselves, because we're talking about these fixed stars, friends. We can really begin to see them as the unfoldment of these different aspects and lunation cycles show themselves. So lean into our morals, lean into our value systems, and when the change comes, receive the change, but do it with grace, not force. Remember, friends, if you like this kind of content, please like the video and please subscribe to come back for more. Please help the algorithm so that way people like you can see these videos. It really helps the channel to grow, and I greatly appreciate you for it. Until the next time, friends, this is Aligned Astrology. We'll see you soon.